Amara had always believed that family came before everything else. From the day she secured her first job, she set aside a portion of her paycheck with one clear purpose in mind: to build a home for her parents. It wasn't a fancy dream of grandeur. It was born out of gratitude. Her parents had raised her and her younger sister Lena with limited means. Their old house had cracked walls, a leaky roof, and barely enough space for privacy. Amara often caught her mother sighing about how nice it would be to have a proper kitchen or a bedroom that didn't double as storage. Those little sighs became fuel for Amara's determination. She lived frugally, skipping vacations, cutting out luxuries, and refusing to upgrade her phone or wardrobe unless absolutely necessary. Colleagues joked that she was too stingy, but Amara brushed it off with a smile. They didn't understand her mission. Every rupee saved meant she was one step closer to giving her parents the comfort they had never been able to afford themselves. Years passed, and Amara's savings grew into something substantial. When the time finally came, she purchased a plot of land on the outskirts of town. The place wasn't lavish, but it had potential: a peaceful neighborhood, clean air, and enough space for a garden where her parents could grow vegetables. She imagined her father sitting on the veranda with a cup of tea, her mother proudly arranging potted plants along the walkway. The construction phase was grueling. Amara oversaw it herself, visiting the site daily after work, negotiating with contractors and double-checking every receipt. She kept meticulous records of every transaction, a habit that came naturally from years of handling her own finances carefully. Even when costs ballooned unexpectedly, she bore the burden without complaint. Dipping deeper into her savings, through it all, her parents' words were full of praise. Her mother often told relatives on the phone, "Our Amara is such a devoted daughter. She's giving us the home we never had." Her father would pat her on the back, saying, "You're making us proud." Those affirmations made every sacrifice worth it, but woven subtly into these praises were threads that Amara tried not to notice. Her parents would occasionally remark, "Lena will benefit from this house to, she's not as financially secure as you are." Or they would muse aloud, "It's good we'll have space for Lena and her future family when she marries." Amara didn't pay much attention at first. To her, the house wasn't about ownership. It was about giving her family a safe, happy place to live. Still, she couldn't help but notice the difference in how they treated her and Lena, while Amara was lauded for her sacrifices. Lena was gently excused from any contribution. If Lena spent money recklessly, their parents laughed it off as youthfulness. When she failed at jobs, they coddled her, insisting she would find her path eventually. Amara sometimes felt the scales were tipped, but she reminded herself that she wasn't building this home for recognition. She was doing it for love. The day the house was completed, Amara felt an overwhelming swell of pride. Standing before the cream-painted walls and tiled roof, she finally saw the fruits of her labor. The wide windows gleamed in the sunlight, and the front door, one she had chosen herself after weeks of searching, stood tall and welcoming. Tears blurred her eyes as she handed the keys to her parents, whispering, "This is for you." Her parents hugged her tightly, and Lena clapped politely, smiling in the background. To Amara, the moment was perfect, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. She believed, perhaps naively, that this house would bind her family closer together. What she didn't know then was that the same house she had built with love and devotion would one day become the very weapon of betrayal used not to honor her, but to wound her in ways she never imagined. The housewarming was everything Amara had dreamed of, or so she thought at first. Relatives poured in, marveling at the polished floors, the spacious kitchen, and the neat little garden Amara had designed with her parents in mind. Laughter filled the rooms, plates of food passed from hand to hand, and every corner echoed with compliments. But as Amara moved through the gathering, she noticed something that tugged at her heart. No one seemed to acknowledge her as the person who had made all of this possible. Instead, they praised her parents. "Finally, you both have a home worthy of you. You must be so proud of yourselves, raising such a fine family." Her mother and father smiled, basking in the glow, rarely correcting anyone. Amara tried to brush off the sting after all. She hadn't built the house for applause. But as the evening stretched on, she couldn't ignore the fact that not once did her parents say, "Amara made this happen." The one who received the most attention, oddly enough, was Lena. She floated through the rooms, acting as though she were the hostess. She showed guests the bedrooms, pointed out the view from the balcony, and even accepted compliments on the design choices that Amara had agonized over. "Yes, I told them the light fixtures in the hall should be brighter," she said casually to an aunt. Though Amara knew Lena had barely visited the site during construction, Amara laughed it off, telling herself her sister just wanted to be involved. But unease curled in her stomach like smoke. When the party ended and the guests trickled out, Amara expected a quiet family moment, a heartfelt thank you perhaps, or even a plan to celebrate privately. Instead, her father clapped her on the shoulder and said, "Now the paperwork will be sorted soon. Don't trouble yourself." "I'll handle the registry?" "The registry?" Amara asked, blinking. "Yes," he said, smiling as if it were obvious. "We'll put it all under family name. No need for you to worry about the technicalities. We've got it covered." Amara hesitated. She had spent years preparing every financial document, every transfer, every bill. She knew the process would be tedious, but it was her responsibility. It was her investment. "Baba," she said gently, "I don't mind handling it. I already have the receipts and paperwork organized." Her mother waved a hand. "Why burden yourself, dear? You're working so hard already. We'll take care of it. Just relax and enjoy what you've built." Though reluctant, Amara nodded. Maybe they were just trying to ease her load. Still, she couldn't shake the image of her parents exchanging quiet glances when the topic came up. As if they were sharing a secret they didn't want her to see. In the weeks that followed, Amara noticed other oddities. Whenever she asked about the documents, her parents replied vaguely, "The registrar's office is slow these days," or "We'll sign everything soon." "Don't worry." Once, she caught Lena leaving her father's study with a sheaf of papers in her hands. When Amara asked what they were, Lena smiled too sweetly and said, "Oh, just some forms for Baba, nothing important." Amara's instincts pricked at her, but she silenced them. These were her parents, her family. Suspicion felt like a betrayal, and yet little details piled up like stones. At dinner, her parents often talked about how Lena would finally have security, or how this house will be perfect for when Lena marries. At first, Amara assumed they meant that Lena would share the space with them. But the more they spoke, the more it sounded as though Lena's claim was stronger than hers. One evening, as Amara sat in the living room, she overheard Lena whispering to their mother, "Are you sure she won't find out?" Her mother's response was hushed, but Amara caught a single phrase, "It's better this way." She understand in time. Amara froze, her heart pounding. What was there to understand? What were they hiding? She told herself she was imagining things, twisting innocent words into suspicion. She wanted to believe her parents would never betray her. She wanted to believe Lena would never take what wasn't hers. And so, despite the unease that gnawed at her, Amara pushed it aside. The house still smelled of fresh paint. The walls still echoed with warmth and laughter. It was everything she had dreamed of. Yet behind the smiles and reassurances, shadows were gathering, shadows that would soon unravel the foundation of trust on which Amara had built not just a home, but her very sense of family. Weeks turned into months, and still the house documents never reached Amara's hands. At first, she told herself bureaucracy was slow, but after the third month passed, her patience frayed. She had poured every ounce of her life savings into the house. She deserved to see the ownership papers. One Saturday morning, she sat down with her father over breakfast. "Baba," she began cautiously, "I think I should go to the registrar myself. It's been too long. They may need my signature directly." Her father's spoon clinked against his cup. For a moment, he didn't answer. Finally, he forced a smile. "It's under control, Amara. No need to stress yourself." But Amara had already decided. That afternoon, she went to the registrar's office alone. She carried her folder of receipts, contracts, and every bank transfer she had meticulously documented. The clerk at the desk asked her name and the property location, then typed it into his system. When he turned the monitor toward her, Amara's breath caught in her throat. The property was registered. The owner's name was not hers. It was Lena's. No, there must be a mistake, Amara stammered. I funded this house. I signed the purchase forms. The clerk glanced at the file and shrugged. It's all here. The documents are complete, and the signature matches. Her hands shook as she asked for a copy. When the paper slid across the desk, Amara's eyes locked on the signature. Her own name looped and written in familiar strokes. Except it wasn't hers. It was forged. Her chest tightened. Betrayal hit her like a storm. Her parents had taken the very dream she built for them and twisted it into a gift for Lena. That evening, she confronted them. She spread the documents across the dining table, her voice trembling. Explain this to me. How is Lena the owner of the house I built? Her parents avoided her gaze. Her mother busied herself with the teapot. Her father rubbed his forehead. Lena, however, didn't flinch. She folded her arms and smirked faintly. It's not what you think, her father said finally. Not what I think. Amara's voice cracked. I gave you everything, every rupee, every sacrifice. And you forged my signature to give Lena the house? Her mother set the teapot down with a clatter. You don't understand, Amara. Lena needs this security. She's not as strong or independent as you are. You'll always find a way for yourself, but she needs our help. Amara stared at her, horrified. So you stole from me? You betrayed me because you think I can survive without what I've earned. It's still your family's house, her father interjected weakly. You can stay here whenever you want. Nothing has changed. But everything had changed. The foundation of trust she'd built her life on had crumbled. She turned to Lena, searching for guilt, for some trace of remorse. Instead, Lena leaned against the wall, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Don't be so dramatic, Amara, Lena said softly. You built the house, yes. But now it belongs to the family. To me. You'll see it's for the best. The words cut deeper than any blade. Amara felt the room tilt around her. This wasn't just about property, it was about love, loyalty, and betrayal. She had given her parents everything, only to be cast aside in favor of the sister who had given nothing. That night, lying awake in her childhood room, Amara replayed every sacrifice she had made. The skipped vacations, the long nights at work, the dreams she had deferred so she could build this home. All of it had been stolen, signed away with ink that wasn't hers. She realized, with a pain sharper than grief, that her family had chosen Lena's comfort over her devotion. And worst of all, they hadn't even asked. They had forged her trust as easily as they had forged her signature dot in the silence of the night. Amara vowed one thing. This betrayal would not go unanswered. The morning after her discovery, Amara sat at the kitchen table, staring at her untouched cup of tea. The silence of the house felt suffocating. When her parents finally emerged, cheerful as though nothing had happened, something inside her snapped. I want the truth, she said firmly, her voice steady despite the storm inside her. Why did you forge my signature? Why did you give Lena the house I built? Her father's face hardened, and her mother sighed as if Amara were a child throwing a tantrum. We already explained, her mother said gently, too gently, as if soothing a stubborn child. Lena needs this more than you. You're independent? You can survive on your own? Amara slammed her palm against the table. That doesn't give you the right to steal from me. This was my life savings. My sacrifice. How could you do this to me? From across the room, Lena strolled in, her expression dripping with mock innocence. Oh, come on, Amara. Stop acting like such a martyr. You built the house, yes, but what's the point of family if we can't share? You'll have your own life. I'll have this house. Everyone wins? Everyone wins? Amara's voice cracked with disbelief. You've never lifted a finger for this family. You spent your money on clothes and parties while I worked overtime to make sure we had a future. And now you're standing here, acting like you deserve what I earned? Lena's smile slipped into a smirk. Well, I have the papers, don't I? The words landed like a slap. Her parents flinched at the bluntness, but neither corrected her. Amara's throat tightened. It wasn't just Lena, it was their silence, their refusal to stand by her, that shattered her heart. "You raised me to believe family meant loyalty," Amara whispered. "But the moment you had to choose between fairness and favoritism, you threw me away." Her father's voice was heavy. "Don't speak like that. We did what was best for the family." "No," Amara shot back, tears welling in her eyes. "You did what was best for Lena. Don't twist it into something noble." The tension spilled into the extended family soon enough. When word spread, reactions were divided. Some of Amara's uncles and cousins called privately, expressing outrage on her behalf. "You should take them to court," one cousin urged. "Forgery is a crime." But others, especially her mother's side, accused her of being ungrateful. "Why can't you just let your sister have it?" An aunt scolded over the phone. "You're doing well. She's struggling. Be the bigger person." The guilt-tripping cut Amara to the bone. For years, she had played the role of the dutiful daughter, the one who worked, sacrificed, and put family first. Now, when she demanded justice, she was painted as selfish. The breaking point came one evening when Lena cornered her in the hallway. Her sister's voice was low, almost taunting. You're making yourself look bad. Everyone thinks you're greedy. Maybe, if you weren't so uptight, you'd still have your family on your side." Amara's hand shook as she pointed at her. "You forged my name. You stole from me. Don't you dare call me greedy." Lena only shrugged, her smirk widening. "The house is mine, Amara. You can scream all you want, but the papers say it all." For the first time in her life, Amara felt truly alone. Her parents, the people she had trusted most, had betrayed her. Her sister reveled in her pain, and her relatives whispered, judging her for demanding what was rightfully hers. That night, Amara stood by the window of the house she had built and realized the bitter truth. This was no longer her home. It was a cage filled with love that had turned sour and loyalty that had curdled into betrayal. But if her family thought she would quietly accept her fate, they were wrong. Amara wiped her tears, straightened her shoulders, and whispered into the night, "If you've declared war on me, then I'll fight." Amara's decision didn't come easily. For days she wavered, torn between the crushing guilt her parents pressed on her and the burning anger that refused to die. Her mother pleaded daily, saying, "Don't involve outsiders. It's a family matter." Her father avoided her gaze, muttering that she was making a fuss over nothing. Lena, on the other hand, paraded through the house like a queen, decorating rooms as though the place had always been hers. But each time, Amara opened her bank app and saw the emptiness of her savings account. The reality hit harder. Everything she had worked for was sitting inside those walls, and she had been erased from it. One evening, she gathered the courage to call a lawyer, a recommendation from a supportive cousin. Sitting in his office, clutching her folder of receipts, she laid out her story. The lawyer, a middle-aged man with sharp eyes, flipped through the documents carefully. "This isn't just betrayal," he said finally. "This is criminal. If your signature was forged, that's fraud, forgery, and misrepresentation. You have a strong case?" Hearing those words was both relief and heartbreak. Relief that she wasn't crazy, that her pain was real and justified. Heartbreak because it meant her parents, the very people she had built the house for, had broken the law to rob her. The lawyer advised her to gather more evidence. Financial transfers showing she had paid for the land. Construction receipts in her name, and any communications that proved her role. Amara already had most of it, meticulously organized. She had always been careful, never imagining her diligence would one day be her weapon against her own family. When she returned home and announced her decision, the house erupted. Her mother burst into tears, wailing, "You're dragging us into court? How could you shame us like this?" Her father's voice thundered, "You will ruin this family." "For what? A piece of land?" "It's not just land," Amara snapped, her hands trembling. "It's my life. My sacrifices. My trust. You forged my name as if I didn't matter. If you think I'll let that go, you don't know me at all." Lena sneered from the corner. Go ahead, sue us. Do you think a judge will side with you over signed papers? The law doesn't care about your little sob story? But Amara's resolve only hardened. The law cares about facts, and the facts are on my side. The weeks that followed were a blur of preparation. Her lawyer filed the case, citing fraud and forgery. A handwriting expert compared her real signature to the forged one, confirming what she already knew. Bank statements revealed every transfer she had made for the land purchase and construction. While Lena's accounts showed not a single contribution, her parents grew cold, speaking to her only in clipped tones. At night, she overheard them whispering about neighbors finding out and what people will say. To them, reputation mattered more than the betrayal itself. Meanwhile, Lena launched her own campaign, poisoning relatives and family friends against Amara. She's greedy, Lena said to anyone who would listen. She can't stand to see me happy. She wants everything for herself. Some believed her, others stayed silent. But the whispers reached Amara's ears all the same. For the first time in her life, Amara felt the weight of standing alone. And yet, it was liberating. She was no longer begging for her parents' approval or trying to prove her worth to Lena. She was fighting for herself for justice. In court. As the hearings began, Lena strutted with false confidence. Flanked by her parents, Amara sat across from them, her lawyer by her side, her evidence stacked high. The judge listened intently as Amara's lawyer laid out the facts. Lena's smirk wavered when the handwriting expert testified, then crumbled further when the financial trail was revealed. The battle was far from over. Trials moved slowly, and her family's attempts to guilt and shame her never ceased. But for the first time since the betrayal, Amara felt something she hadn't in months. Control. No matter how long it took, no matter how much it cost her emotionally, she was determined. They had stolen her trust. They had stolen her home. But they would not steal her dignity. Months passed, and the legal battle dragged on. Court dates came and went, each one draining Amara a little more. She had never imagined she would stand in front of a judge with her parents and sister sitting across from her, their faces hard, their eyes cold. The family that was once her foundation had become her opposition, but little by little, the truth clawed its way into the open. The handwriting expert's testimony was clear. The signature on the property papers was forged. The bank records showed undeniable proof every transfer came from Amara's account. Not Lena's. Contractors and suppliers who had worked on the house gave statements, all confirming that Amara had overseen the construction and made the payments. Even the registrar's office admitted discrepancies when the original forms were scrutinized. Lena's defense grew weaker with every passing hearing. At first, she held her head high, acting as though the house was hers by right. But as evidence piled up, her confidence cracked. Her voice wavered when the judge asked her simple questions. Her explanations grew contradictory. And worst of all, her smugness slipped, revealing panic beneath. Her parents remained defiant longer. They insisted to the court that they had only been protecting both daughters. They painted themselves as victims of misunderstanding, pleading that it was a family matter gone too far. But their pleas could not erase the facts. Finally, after months of hearings, the judge delivered the verdict. The property was to be transferred back into Amara's name. The forgery was acknowledged, the fraud exposed. Lena's ownership claim was declared void. The moment the words left the judge's mouth, Amara's chest loosened as if a boulder had been lifted. Relief washed over her, but it was not the joy she had once imagined. She had won, yes, but the victory came at the cost of the family she had once loved unconditionally. Outside the courthouse, her parents refused to meet her eyes. Her mother muttered something about shame, her father about outsiders knowing our business. Lena, however, glared with venom. "You think you've won," she hissed, her voice sharp. "But you've destroyed this family. Don't expect us to forgive you." Amara stared at her sister, exhaustion dulling her anger. "I never asked for forgiveness," she said quietly. "Only for what was mine." She walked away that day with the papers in her hand, but also with a hollow ache in her heart. The house she had dreamed of as a place of love and security would never feel the same. Its walls were tainted with betrayal. Its rooms echoed with bitterness. In the weeks that followed, Amara made her choice. She would not live there. She couldn't. Instead, she rented it out and used the income to rebuild her life. With the money, she moved into a modest apartment in the city, a place that was entirely hers, free of lies, free of false smiles. It was quiet. Smaller than the family home, but it brought her peace. She decorated the walls with her own photographs, filled the shelves with books she had never had time to read, and allowed herself small luxuries she had long denied. For the first time, she was building something not for others but for herself. Her parents rarely called. Lena didn't speak to her at all. Relatives whispered still, some accusing, some admiring her strength. But Amara no longer cared. One evening, sitting by her window with a cup of tea, she looked out at the city lights and felt something she hadn't in a long time. Freedom. She had built a house for her family, and they had forged away her trust. But in fighting for herself, she had discovered something far more valuable than walls and windows: dignity, independence, and the courage to walk away. She realized then that money could build a house, but only love could make it a home. And though she had lost one, she had found the other within herself.